Mm, mm. Mm-hmm.
Om Shanti, everyone. Thanks for coming this evening. Welcome to Inner Space Wembley. So, Inner Space Wembley has been here for over 25 years as an oasis of peace in the midst of Wembley. So, we hope you're going to enjoy this evening's event, whether you're here in person or on the webcast. So, welcome to everyone on the webcast as well. So I'm Jim Dees, primary school teacher in Harrow, and I've been meditating with the Brahma Kumaris for a number of years now, and come to help out at Inner Space when I get the opportunity. So just a couple of things before we start. So if you do have a mobile phone, make sure it's on silent, and there will be video taken throughout today's event and some photographs. So if you're uncomfortable with your video or photograph being taken, then please do speak to one of the ushers. We don't have any fire drills planned. So if there is an alarm, the fire exit is just here, and we go down the stairs the same way that we came in, and the assembly point will be on the square opposite. And the bathroom, if you do need it, just down the corridor on the left. So any first timers here this evening, been to Inner Space for the first time? Okay, well, welcome. So we, as I said at the beginning, this is an oasis of peace, and whenever you walk into Inner Space or any centre of the Brahma Kumaris, you will have a tangible sense of the feeling of peace, and we know that you'll be experiencing that this evening, as well as hopefully many insights from the conversation. So the Brahma Kumaris itself is a worldwide spiritual organization devoted to personal transformation through connecting to our true identity and to the source. And it is now established in over 110 countries across the world, having first been established in 1937 in India. And what's quite unique about the Brahma Kumaris is that the founder has put women at the forefront, and it's the largest spiritual organization which is led by women, and that's a kind of unique aspect of the Brahma Kumaris. So I'd like to welcome Paul. So Paul's our musician this evening. We've heard his beautiful music over the last half an hour. Now, Paul is in the field of live music, theatre and TV. Was an actor originally in the 80s in many musicals. And a couple of his highlights performed at the National Theatre, I think that Wind in the Willows. It was, yeah. Paul. And also with the Royal Shakespeare Company, Alice in Wonderland. Yes, yes. Done my research. But then ventured into the world of music and was with the chart toppers, the Flying Pickets, and I think I heard the instrumental of Only You.
I did put it in, yeah. Put it in, yeah.
But also performed alongside Nina Simone, Ray Charles, and Bob Dylan, and plays with the blues band Jump 66 and the Dean Street Jazz Trio.
Beautiful.
So Paul's going to play a song for us now, and then we'll move on with the next event. So over to you, Paul.
Thank you very much. This is a James Taylor song called The Secret of Life. Oh, the secret of life is enjoying the passage of time. Any fool can do it. There ain't nothing to it. Nobody knows how we got to the top of the hill. Since we're on our way down, swelling joys around. Oh, the secret of love is open your heart. It's okay to feel afraid. Everyone knows that love is beautiful. Since we're only here for a while, might as well show some style. Give us a smile. It's a little lovely ride. Sliding down, climbing down. Try not to try too hard. It's just a lovely ride. Now the thing about time is that time isn't really real. It's all on your point of view. How does it feel for you? Einstein said that we can never understand it all. Planet spinning in space. Smile upon your face. Welcome to the human race. It's a sliding down. Try not to try too hard. It's just a lovely ride.
That was beautiful. Thank you, Paul. There was one line in there. It's all from your point of view, and actually, the link to today's talk. If we sometimes change our perspective, that can help us remove the barrier. So, just a reminder: if you just arrived, please ensure your phone is on. Before we move on to the main event, we're just going to watch a short video about a project that's in progress at the Inner Space Wembley branch here, inspired by Vicky Ben, and with drive and tenacity, she's been pushing it forward. And it's called Virtual Reality to Virtue Reality. And what we aim to do through this project is connect people to their innate qualities, their innate virtues that are inside all of us. And through doing that, withdraw from the virtual world. Although the virtual world is still very useful, and it has been particularly over the last couple of years, sometimes we can become trapped too much. So connecting to our innate qualities enables us to fly free and find our virtue reality. So it's a short video which will explain the project.
To be lost in a virtual world, stuck in a cycle of scrolling, trapped to likes and retweets, wandering aimlessly amidst an array of bewildering stimuli. All that seems so easy in today's time. Delving into our inner world can help us to rediscover the innate treasures, enabling us to shift from virtual reality to virtue reality. The Virtual Reality Project takes us on a journey through three aspects: discover, deepen, demonstrate. Discover. Through a series of short documentary videos, we explore how people in the community have drawn strength from their innate virtues, impacting themselves and people around them. Deepen. Raj Yoga experts from around the world will take us on an inner journey through guided meditation to deepen experience, nurture, and nourish virtues. Demonstrate. A collection of suggested tips and tools will provide guidance on how to strengthen the use of virtues within our daily lives to develop our creative and spiritual selves in a practical way. We envision that the Virtue Reality Project will induce unity in the community and support people to take up control and shift from the dominance of the virtual world of apps and gadgets to an experience of human dignity. Let's explore our innate goodness and empower our true selves with the wings of our virtues. Virtue Reality.
so that video gives you the essence of that project. So onto the main event this evening. So I'd like to introduce Loveena. So Loveena has joined us, and she's a journalist and filmmaker, and foreign correspondent for India Today and Addl, and also host of Chai Chat with Loveena. Loveena is going to be kind of, in conversation with Sister Jayanti, who's also here. And Sister Jayanti is the additional administrative head of the Brahma Kumaris, and also the United Nations, Brahma Kumaris United Nations rep, and has been involved in UN conferences linked to the environment, climate change, women, development, youth, and other major projects. And over 50 years experience of Raj yoga meditation and its practical application in daily life. And Sister Jayanti really has this incredible ability to get to the essence, and with real simplicity, clarity, and authenticity, speak from her heart, and through that touches the hearts of those that are listening, um, and really a natural authority comes through. So I'd like to invite Loveena and Sister Jayanti on the stage.
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti, Loveena.
Thank you for having me. And you're looking gorgeous. You always look gorgeous. And your smile is incredible. I had to say that because I saw so many interviews of hers, and that is the most infectious thing. And I had to say that on record. Another thing I think I want to put on record is that I have to give compliment to the Brahma Kumaris, and for some reason, I'm constantly drawn to this organization by fate. And I interviewed Shivani Didi, and I wasn't told that you can ask this or you can't ask this, and so I have to give that compliment to you. And there is a question related to that. But before, very quickly, I want to set a little scope of what I intend to do. Very practical stuff, very toolkit kind of stuff to deal with our life, and how Sister Jayanti or Jayanti Didi can help us do that. So I would like to call this evening Breakthrough with Our Barrier, rather than breaking a little bit of, it just gives a little negative tone. So thank you for talking to me, Sister Jayanti and Jayanti Didi. I was reminded of this little story that everyone knows about, the elephant and the ant. And I remember that pride that got into the elephant. He was creating menace everywhere. And then a small little ant warned him, and he didn't listen. And she said, all right, I'm going to put you at that. And she gets into the nostril of the elephant and creates havoc. And he has to say sorry, apologize, and not do that again. So we have a lot of elephants in our life that we create. And this is what we want to address. So Sister Jayanti, first of all, when you say, okay, ask me anything, and then you're asked an awkward question, you're not asked. A lot of this happens to us. How do you keep that calm and still a bass voice and not get angry at people? And just this very instinctive reaction, isn't it?
Many, many years ago, I learned that when I'm aware of the inner being that I truly am, I would use the word soul. When I'm aware that my identity is not this body, but I'm that inner being soul. And if I'm focused here rather than here, then in that state I'm connected to my natural state of peace. And yes, I've been in many awkward situations, difficult challenges, questions being thrown at me. But it's possible at that moment to go inside, stay connected with that inner peace. And that's what comes out naturally. Because you're not having, let's say, a radio interview, for example. It's not a debate as we define it. It's simply an opportunity to share ideas. And if somebody is coming with aggression, it means that they're carrying some hurt or something somewhere.
Mhm.
And if I respond with aggression, then nothing good is going to come out. But if I can respond with peace, then at some point of time, if not today, maybe tomorrow,
So you live with that difference of opinion and respond calmly to it.
um, I see that as being the only positive response. Reacting just, autopilot, knee-jerk reactions, it doesn't help in any situation.
It's indeed a long journey, and I think the world needs to learn, and that's why we are here. But starting on a personal note, now there would have been a situation you took to the Brahma Kumaris at the age of 90. You grew up in this country largely, though you were born in Pune, and then you told your father one day that you wanted to be a Brahma Kumari, a 19-year-old girl, wearing all lovely, as the whole world at the doorstep, a daughter of a textile business person, and takes on wears white. And so how did you get how did he cross that barrier and you cross the barrier of making your father come to your point of view?
It happened gradually over a period of time. It didn't happen overnight. So the journey wasn't a smooth one. But there came a point when he was hearing from others about the value of meditation. I happened to be in the country. My mother's sisters were there, and they phoned back to tell him that they'd really benefited from the things I'd shared about meditation. And so he began to have a little bit of a different perspective. Because remember, in the early 70s, although meditation had come to Britain, and mostly it was TM that was around, I'm looking around to see who would have been around at that time, my generation, and some of you were. So TM had come on the scene. But usually meditation was being associated with fringe. It wasn't anything to do with mainstream. So it was hippies, it was people who really didn't like the way the world was going, who were opting out of society. And so that was the impression that he also had. And so when he was getting back feedback from people he knew very closely, and they were telling him, well, meditation's really good, he slowly began to change. And then he was meeting people who by then were coming to the center. And meeting them, he was deeply impressed by their behavior, their demeanor, their responses. And so that made him understand that this is something that's really useful and necessary for our times. And so after a few years, he had shifted his perspective. I didn't have to change to this in the sense that I wasn't going to compromise what I was doing. But what did happen was that I stopped arguing, because at first it was arguments. You're saying this, I'm saying this. But I learned that I had to be very calm. It was a very practical situation. I had to stay calm no matter what, because that would be the only way that he could understand that this was something real.
And I think it just gives so many, it happens every day in life. It happens every day to every parent, every person, that your father took a while to come around to your decision. And in that while, you must have stayed in a state of not agreeing with each other, and often happens in life in every relationship. How how did you and how would one live with that uncomfortable situation?
I think it needs open, honest conversations. And if both agree that, or more than two, whatever it is, if both agree that the relationship is more important than anything else, then both are going to try and preserve that, so that then you find a way in which to manage things rather than antagonize each other. Because if you really want that relationship to survive, then there has to be give and take. And so that's important.
But often enough in life, let's call it marriage, sometimes, one person wants to go by what you said, and the other person is not on the same page. And it happens with many other relationships too, and there are barriers of perception, as you said, and you find it hard to reach out to the other person. And it's hard at times to even remain calm. How would one approach that when the other partner is not on the same page and doesn't want to be?
It's more challenging if the other person's not interested in sustaining that relationship. Very much more challenging, because really you're at different crossroads. But I think that if you believe in the power of vibrations, and I'm not talking about the vibrations of the train going through, so that's creating vibrations also, but I'm talking about more subtle vibrations. And so when you believe in vibrations, you know that if you keep sending good wishes and vibrations of peace to the other, then that eventually does work. Again, it doesn't work instantly. At least I haven't seen it work instantly. So it takes patience, it takes persistence, but you get there.
But is there a point in time when you say in a relationship, enough is enough?
It's a very personal decision to come to that. So I wouldn't say, I'm not a counselor.
Yes.
I'm not somebody who's going to enter into that arena, because it involves so many, many different things.
I understand.
But of course, yes, it might come to that you say that maybe we amicably part and go our separate ways, but it's not something I would ever recommend to another. They would have to come to that decision.
Right. Often enough, good people, perfectly you think, I am absolutely fine. Take my example, I think I was okay. But I've done many bad judgments and many bad decisions. And it keeps happening, and we keep entering into certain set of problems or relationships, and we keep making the same judgments or decisions. How do we look at our blind spots, and what is that barrier or that pattern that we are not seeing, and how could we do it?
Learn to meditate.
Really?
That is the answer. Because what you're doing in meditation, it's not making your mind go blank. I think that's a misconception that many people have, that meditation means just blanking your mind. But no, what you're doing is actually going on an inner journey of exploration. You're going deep inside yourself, and you're seeing what is it that keeps coming up as a block. And you begin to identify those blocks. It's a journey. It doesn't all get resolved instantly, but you continue, and you begin to see where it is you could have done things differently. It did not need to be the way it was. And from those explorations, you begin to see what it is you need to change. And then, of course, you need the power to be able to change, because sometimes we can see that maybe I'm impatient, and it's my impatience that's causing problems, which often happens. But with meditation, what you're doing is connecting with the source, and you're drawing that power within yourself so that your own inner capacity continues to grow, and you're able to not just identify, but also then transform that response that you've been having, so that there is change happening. The other very big thing about meditation is that you're not waiting for somebody else to change. You know how very often in life we say, well, if this person were to do this, everything will be fine. But I have to change myself. I can't expect somebody else to change. Who's tried changing someone else? Anyone tried? Has it worked? Mostly it doesn't work. I have to change myself.
It's quite funny actually that you say that, change. When we get friendly with someone and you say, oh, he's so much like me, and you get close, you make friends with them, and then you become friends and you want to change that person. And then at the same time we say, no, you can't change anybody. So we live in this world of confusion, and seriously, I have loads of it as well. If I would count my life, I think half of it has been spent confused. So why do we feel, and it's decision making of confusion of every kind or anything. For me, it could be a furniture between having orange or apple at this point in time to anything else. What is that barrier?
This is actually the question that brought me to Raj Yoga.
Really?
Because at the end of the 60s, there were so many different paths that I could see opening up in front of me. The permissive society was very strong. It had just come up. It was a novelty, but it was strong. Traditional Western society, traditional Indian society, and then a path that I could see my mother was following, which was a spiritual path. So I had all of these choices in front of me. They say that stress is when you have too much choice and not enough wisdom to make your choice. So I was absolutely in that situation. I wouldn't have called it stress, but there was confusion. And then when I met Daddy Janki, I think some of you here would have met Daddy Janki at some point. I'm seeing nods. She was my mentor later on for many years. But at that point, she was like an elder sister. And I'd gone to her to try and understand. And she'd spoken about this and said how this confusion that's there is because our conscience has many different layers on it. The layer of society, of media, of whatever is currently in fashion, whatever fad is around, education, friends, all of those things. And it's not possible to actually allow the conscience to look at things clearly. And that was exactly the situation I was in, though I hadn't said anything to her about it. And I asked her, well, how does one deal with it? You won't be surprised with the answer.
Meditation.
Learn to meditate.
Yeah. We'll have to understand this, and also the principles of Brahma Kumaris and the meditation. So, what were your confusions as, and what were your options there and here?
I didn't know anything about the path of spirituality, but I had seen the impact of the permissive society to a certain extent, where I was seeing that relationships were very fragile. They weren't strong at all. And then traditional Indian society, I saw many blocks and barriers for me there. And traditional Western society, I was growing up in that, and there were things that were attractive, but there were other things that were challenging. And so seeing all of those different options, I thought, well, I don't know anything about spirituality, let me explore that. And here was Daddy saying, well, come on this journey. And so I did. And after a few weeks, I realized that this is really what I want to do.
19 years of age, you took to white. Never ever felt, never looked back.
Maybe because my parents had given me everything that I could desire. So there was no area that was tempting me to explore in that sense. So thought, I had all of that, and yet I was still not completely content inside. And now this path that I'm seeing is, and already through the few weeks of meditation, I'd had very powerful, very beautiful experiences. But more than those experiences, I had questions being answered finally, because I'd had many questions. And
Like?
about God. Does God exist or not? And then I was given a very simple explanation, but not just an explanation, but the method of meditation was very simple, and I could experiment with it, and I could feel it, and so the understanding was clear, and the experience was there, and so I started to believe, I started to understand. Another question was, we've got all these patterns of behavior that we carry. Is it always going to be like that? Or is it possible to change any of these things? And so when I understood how these patterns of behavior have been created and how meditation can bring about transformation, again, it was amazing insights. It's actually possible to change the leopard spots, which I thought was absolutely impossible, but it is possible.
What were the leopard spots of yours that you changed, the biggest barrier that you had to overcome, and how?
Attachments, ego. One always thinks that one is right, and so these were two very big things. And the attachments broke through just recognizing the inner being, the soul, and knowing that it was possible to have a relationship in which there was love but not dependency, because the soul is actually independent. And then we develop these dependencies on others. And so coming back to that awareness of who I am changed that dramatically. And the other thing, the ego, well, it's still work in progress because you have to chip away at it. You don't know how it's going to manifest. But this idea that I'm right, I recognize that that was a big thing. And it was beautiful because not so much in that early period, but coming back to London, and then a meditation center started, a Brahma Kumaris center, and being exposed to a variety of people who were coming to the center, I could see that there was a different perspective that I hadn't thought about. And so hearing, seeing, being exposed to different ideas, I began to understand that I can never say I am right, but very often you are right, and you are right, and you are right, and there's an aspect of truth in all of this. And so you have to be able to open your mind and let go of your ego and just begin to look at different perspectives and accept that there is truth.
So, but when so many rights are in present, how does one choose our right or accept and live in harmony?
If I find a path which is resonating with me and it's helping me move forward spiritually in terms of my own inner transformation, where I know, say for example, the same thing can be called stubbornness, or it can be determination. And
very thin line.
That's right. And so with spirituality, you change that stubbornness into, yes, you channel it into determination, which is going to be useful, but you don't let yourself get stuck, that the orange and apple that you were talking about. So that's fine, and that's fine. It's not that one is right and the other isn't right. But maybe if today I choose this and you choose that, and we agree, okay, we'll work with you. And tomorrow maybe you'll choose what I'm choosing and you'll agree. So you can find compromises in that way. Sometimes there are principles that you don't want to compromise on. Those are absolutely guidelines for your life. But there are many other things in which it's choices. And so if I can adjust within that, so then you know that, yes, I'm changing. That a year ago, I wouldn't have been able to adjust. And today, yes, I have been able to adjust. So when you find that there is a part that's explaining the questions that you had, that's helping you resolve your confusion, that's giving you experiences that are beneficial, but most of all, it's helping you change in a direction that is positive, then you stick with it.
Okay. Coming to choices, I think I want to address, and I have to bear in mind the time, which is why in today's times, our children are exposed to technology. We saw such a beautiful film on virtual reality to virtual reality. And it is the reality of today, where technology has brought us together and has created divisions or has had us apart as well. So today, a restaurant scene where everybody is on a phone and yet on a dinner together is the cliche almost. And my son tells me, you can't, when I tell him no screen and have screen time, and this is parenting around screen, he tells me, you were born in dinosaur age. I was born in the technology age. You don't get me. How do I get him and how can he get me?
I think if you sit and explain, sometimes what happens is that parents just dictate. No. But if instead of that you were to sit and gently explain why you're saying what you're saying and the benefit of that, I think that there's more hope for understanding rather than just a dictate that's coming that you can't do this. No, but why am I saying you can't do this? Do I understand clearly what my reasoning is, and can I present it to the other?
And why is why? So let's play the role.
Okay.
I'll be my son. Because this is a very big problem for us and many, many parents who are listening.
What I've found is that people who just get hooked and addicted to technology and their devices lose touch with reality. And they may think that they have 100 friends on Facebook, but if they actually try to call a gathering and want to meet those 100 friends, how many would turn up? Maybe 1, maybe 2. These are real stats that I've seen, that people have actually tried to bring their friends together, thinking I've got hundreds of friends. 1 or 2 turn up. And so that gives you an understanding of how far one is from reality, and also how definitely it's not something which is going to allow my creativity to emerge, but friends is one thing, and relationships is a very important part of life, and so I have to learn how to relate to other human beings, not just people on a screen. But the second aspect is that I find that where people are hooked into screens, they're really not allowing their own inner creativity to emerge. They're being fed all sorts of stuff from outside. But if there can be a stimulus for my own creativity, that will surely make my life much happier and better.
Are you saying that we offer them options other than?
I know a parent who very actively encouraged their children to go into sports, and their 2 children excelled in the sports they had chosen. And as they grew up, because they were engaged already from a young age in sports, they weren't locked inside. So many children today, they don't know about the natural world out there. They've cut off from that. They're in this room and they're exposed only to what's going on the screen. But exposing their children to sports made a huge difference, and those 2 children today are wonderful adults, young adults, and they're doing very well. So I think that yes, there are options that parents should introduce, not even offer, but say 8 years old, 9 years old, it's a time when the children still are open to suggestions. I think, I don't know anymore nowadays, but I think, and so encourage them, go with them. If they expose you to fresh air also for a change.
And a lot of the time we say in our life, where is the time? Where is the time for me to work, to cook, to clean, to take the children to sports, and then to even do Raj Yoga? What do I do with my life? I have only 24 hours.
I don't know the latest statistic, but a little while ago when I'd been looking at this, I found that people say they don't have time, but somehow they manage to give time to the little box in the corner. And they were giving every day some time to television, and by the end of the week it was several hours they had given to television. And sure, if you can be selective about what you're watching, and sometimes just comedy, fine, or sometimes a documentary, fine. But what happens is you switch it on, and it's like everybody forgets that there's a switch off button and the television is on. Once you put it on, it's there for hours, and it's occupying everybody's attention. And if instead of that we were to say, okay, this evening let's go out for a walk, and or arrange something else. So I think we could make a big difference. So I found that people who say they don't have time, but yet there's time wasted in watching television. And so that would be a big chunk of time that you could do other things in.
Mind shift, perception. So I don't think I have too much time, but I don't. Okay, but I do want to do a quick toolkit, and I'm going to rattle out. This is rapid fire, if you like. I'm going to rattle out some doubts, and give me just 3 minutes. And Nidhi has worked very hard, and I have to say that I was looking in my wardrobe for something to wear white, and I only found black because I'm horizontally challenged. And I think please do address the issue of people feeling fat all the time. But there you are. My toolkit. I'm going to say one thing, and you tell me how do we address that? Self-doubt.
Look at your specialities. There's always some goodness within every individual. And so when I look for those good qualities that I have, that begins to help me develop self-esteem.
I'm not enough.
Who am I comparing myself with? I am unique. I am an individual who has amazing qualities. And if I'm comparing, then there's always going to be somebody better, somebody worse. But no, each one of us is unique. That is a reality, actually. Not just unique in terms of faces and, our personalities, but each one absolutely is a unique individual. And so let me appreciate that.
Insecurities, whether it be self, what I said, blacks, or in people.
You're actually touching on all the aspects that are related to the recognition of the self, the inner identity. And so the first lesson of Raj Yoga meditation is getting to know who I am. And so I definitely recommend, even if you don't take all the lessons, that first lesson was amazing for me, and it gave me so many answers. And I think that question would also be answered by getting to know myself.
Then possibly the next question will be the same. What will people say?
I have to trust that I'm following my own inner voice of conscience. And then it's not a question of what others observe or say or do, but if I'm being true to my own conscience, I can sleep comfortably at night. Otherwise I can't. if I'm trying to please you, but I'm going against my conscience, how am I going to manage my life? It's not going to be comfortable at all.
And to be comfortable saying no.
Conviction in what it is I am saying no to. I know my health, I know my responsibilities, and so keeping all of that in mind, then I have to decide yes or no. But then there's a ground frame that I understand why I'm saying yes to something and no to something else. Again, it's not just an instant reaction, but I've thought about it and I know why I'm saying no.
Brilliant, thank you very much. I rest my case and I open the open the floor to questions. And I think I am the decider, so you can raise your hand and I can point. Anyone? Yes, please.
We live in a society where we might be very far removed from ourselves. There's a lot of things out there that take us away from feeling our conscience. So if you're far removed and like maybe you were speaking about that child, those two kids that had their parents pushing them, and you know, some cases they're single parents, or it's hard for parents to do that just because of the society we live in. How do we connect, if we feel lost, how do we connect with our soul, our conscience, our inner self?
Beautiful, that was a mother speaking.
If I'm really searching for answers, then I have to go to the right place and just type in consciousness, type in meditation, and you'll be given some ideas of where to start looking. So I think that I have to be ready, because otherwise I'll say, but this is what life is all about and it's okay, I'll carry on. But when I say that I don't want to carry on like this anymore, I want to see what alternatives there are, and I start searching, I'll find a way.
Thank you. Does that answer your question? Brilliant, thank you. We could also, I know you will be meditating in the end. There's so many plethora of meditations. I think explaining Raj Yoga would be useful, unless someone has a question and I don't want to get in between. Yes, and you can roll in with that. Thank you.
My question, thank you, Sister Jayanti. The question is about virtual reality and virtual reality. But when we get into the virtual reality, we find often that we tend to get more and more deepened into before we discover. And at times a person who's going into virtual reality with technology, they become a victim of OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. At times a person who's going into virtual reality with technology, where the person does not have a conscious of what's happening within or outside, how do you overcome that challenge?
When you're probably in that situation, I mean, OCD is a very specific situation which is much further down the line. But generally speaking, what you find is that people say that, you know, I'm doing all these things, but I'm still not happy, I'm still not content. So, do I want to find a path to happiness? Do I want to find a path of contentment? Or then that's the search. Or maybe I meet somebody and I say, well, they're in the same situation as me. They're following the same deadlines and pressures, and yet they're managing and I'm not. So what is it about them? Have a chat with them and find out. And probably you'll find there's, under the surface, there's a meditator. And so maybe that will be the incentive. So I've seen that synchronicity works in amazing ways. When I'm ready, a door opens. It's a reality, because I attract with my own energy whatever is going to be needed at that moment.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I think we could answer the Raj Yoga question and the pillars of Brahma Kumari, and I do want to add to that, if I can. Do you finally believe in God? Do you get your answers?
Raj Yoga meditation begins with just this deep desire to know myself. And of course there's a process of introduction and information that's shared. And then you start reflecting on that, and you start experimenting with that. Very simple experiment. I can either see you and I can see the things that you're wearing. That's going to set a certain pattern in my mind. I see maybe you're of Indian origin, and again that's going to set a certain train of thoughts. But spirituality says you're a soul. You're that inner being, that being a point of light that's here. And so if I look at you in that way, I begin to make contact with the real you, instead of just the box that I put you in my mind. And so meditation means through the day also maintaining this higher consciousness of who I am, and seeing others with that vision, and connecting and relating with others with that awareness. And so if I'm doing this through the day, then when I sit to meditate, I focus here and I begin to feel this inner being, and I begin to go deeper inside, and I see the goodness that's there, but I also see the other side. I also begin to recognize my weaknesses and my faults. But I continue the journey, and just that discovery of the self is very powerful and beautiful. But it also allows me to come into that awareness where I can sense the presence of the divine. While I'm just in the consciousness of this, all my relationships are here, that's it, nothing further. But it's when I go deep inside, then I become aware of the presence that I wasn't aware of before, and that's the presence of the divine. And there's another lesson in which then I have to try and understand more about that subject. And if your questions are being answered as you carry on with this study, it's a whole course of study. And as your questions are answered, it's a very good incentive to keep moving further. If your questions are not being answered, then you get stuck. But as you get the answers, you keep moving forward, and you're beginning to get the experience of what these people, these Brahma Kumaris, are talking about. And so you get that connection. People associate yoga with the postures and everything, which is fine. But yoga actually means union, connection. And so it's not just me connecting with my body, as some people would say. I need to be aware of the body. But yes, that's fine, my breath and my body, all of that's important. But I'm seeking Raj Yoga, the highest, the sovereign, the supreme, the master. And that means connection with the divine. And so in essence, that is Raj Yoga.
So wonderful. And we will have a session of that very shortly. But before, I have to say that today is the day when Brahma Baba, who started Brahma Kumaris and left his body, as you say, which is very beautiful way of actually putting. And you met him, and that's what transformed you. And you're also from the same family. I think I would like you to give a tribute to him on this day, and it also marks the World Religion Day, which is just gone. But religion these days is dividing rather than connecting, and we are here talking about connection and spirit of all of you, and you're also from the same family. I think I would like...
I was very fortunate that I met Brahma Baba as a child, and the impact was of very powerful, charismatic personality, but also very beautiful love. And so that created a connection that stayed with me for a long time afterwards, and it hasn't gone yet. And then through my teenage years, when we'd go back to India on holiday, I'd again be meeting him. But Mount Abu, where he lived at that time, felt like a dream world. I'd go to Mount Abu for a few days, 4 days, 5 days, and it was as if I'd been transported into a perfect world. Not because the physical conditions were perfect, it's a very beautiful location, mountains and so on, but the life was a very simple life, really basic. But his personality, and the personality of all the family at that moment, the brothers and sisters around, it was an atmosphere of pure love, absolutely. So it would be a gorgeous experience. But I'd come back down the mountain and you'd see another reality, and that other reality would take over, and this would feel as if it was just a dream. But when I actually started to study these teachings, then I got to know him as a person, and I realized the amazing work he had done. Jim mentioned how one of the unique features of the Brahma Kumaris is having women at the foreground. Well, even today, there isn't another spiritual organization that caters for men and women and has women as the leaders. You've got nuns and convents and the Mother Superior there, but that's different. But here you've got men and women coming together, but with women as the leaders. And so even today it's unusual, and we're already in the 21st century. But at that time, imagine in 1936, when he first had the visions and thought about creating a world of equality and justice, meant that the injustice that existed at a very basic level worldwide was the whole relationship with women and the patriarchal society. And so you can see he was quite a visionary, a revolutionary, but also visionary. Both often go together. And his leadership qualities were absolutely incredible. There's a lot of research done into leadership nowadays, and I'll mention 4 very specific qualities that I've heard on the basis of research they said are the qualities of leadership.
Indeed.
First, benevolence. A person who really wants to give benefit. So you can see that although we have so-called leaders around us today, when people have actually been questioned about what is real leadership, they talk about benevolence. And Brahma Baba had a heart that was big and totally benevolent, concerned to uplift and to give. There was nothing he wanted to keep for himself, always the one who was giving, so really the benefactor. Secondly, a person with no discrimination, no barriers. And Brahma Baba, again, young or old, whichever religious background, no religious background, he was able to touch everybody's hearts and they could feel the love and concern, so no discrimination. Somebody who kept his promises. If he said he would do something, he would do it. And the fourth, somebody who walks their talk. And so his principle was he would never talk about something unless he had done it himself first. And then on the basis of his own personal experiment, then he would say to others, well, this is how you can do it. So these were the qualities we saw in Brahma Baba, absolutely. And I wouldn't have known at that time when I was witnessing all this that this is what people say are the qualities of a leader. That sort of analysis came much, much later. But these were the things we saw in Brahma Baba.
And we have a question online, and I think it's a very relevant question which I missed, so great here. How to heal from severe post-traumatic stress disorder, or how to deal with trauma?
These things are very specialized subjects, and post-traumatic disorder, again, is a very specialized field, and trauma, again, there are specialists in this area. So I'm not a specialist, but I do know that when people come and they understand who is God, and they understand how to connect with God, then the experience of God's love is able to heal them. And if they still need help, I would still say go to the specialists and take that help, take that support. But definitely one of the factors that aids healing is love. And if it's love that's absolutely unconditional and it's unending, then that love truly can heal the soul. And I've seen that happen.
It's very hard. I'm sorry, we have a few minutes. So it's quite hard, especially when, I know you said we wouldn't go into the field of psychology or anything like that, but a lot of the people, and it happens with parents as well, they carry baggage, or in a relationship, you're carrying a baggage. How do you deal with a person carrying baggage and love him when he is or she is being obnoxious?
It's a reality that I've had to deal with in different situations.
Please give an example if you can.
Literally, people come with a lot of infancy problems, childhood problems, and when you're if you didn't know about all of this, then you just wonder, why are they behaving in such a crazy way? There's no reason to behave like this. Their responses are really OTT. You're shocked. You said something very simple and the reaction was huge. And then when you begin to understand that there is this baggage, and maybe you're able to talk to them, and you understand that this is what it is that's making them behave the way they are, you begin to feel a lot of compassion for them. And then you're not challenging and questioning, they shouldn't do this, that why are they doing this? But it's acceptance that they are having to deal with more than ordinary people, more than most, or more than me. And with that compassion, you can't change them. But what you can do is be available for them whenever they're ready to talk to you. And you have to wait. You can't push it, you can't make it happen. And sometimes they themselves realize that their behavior is not normal, and they seek professional help, which is very good. But if you're able to win their trust, they know that even if they behave very badly, and they do realize it, they know that, but they come to that point where they realize that I've behaved badly, but you've stood by them, you've supported them, you haven't shut the door on them, and through that they begin to change.
Does anyone have a question? Otherwise I have one. Please.
Thank you. You've spoken about conscience, and I was just, and that's something incredibly important to me, and I think in general. And I was just wondering, where do you think conscience comes from, and what is the relation between conscience and our true self and God? If you could enlighten me, that'd be great.
Fascinating question. And conscience is part of that inner being, but that inner being has been loaded with all the things that are going on in the world today. And so the more I spend time with myself, just getting to know myself and having a dialogue with myself, an inner dialogue, I begin to realize that I can allow the conscience to become clear and powerful through meditation. And so the connection with God is of the soul with the divine, and that love and light that you begin to experience is part of the cleansing of the conscience, and the conscience becomes cleaner, more able to understand and discern what is right, what is wrong, which is the direction I need to go in, and the conscience is able to take power from the divine, so that then it's not just that awareness or realization, but then the capacity to be able to put that realization into action. And what you asked about is actually the first 2 lessons that we take up within the course in meditation. I've been talking about this course, and maybe you'll hear about it in more detail later, but just to say it's totally open, totally free, and if you take one lesson and you decide that's enough, that's your choice. You don't have to sign any contract with us. There's no commitment. You just come, and if it's of benefit, you come back again and again and again.
Anyone else? Peter. Okay, we will wrap up, but one last thing. If you had not been Jayanti Didi, what would you have been, just in case?
I would probably have been a very discontented, angry feminist.
I wanted that out. Instead, we have a meditator, so there we go. Let's meditate and give everyone a taste of it. Thank you for listening all. Thank you very much. Om Shanti.
Thank you for great questions.
Thank you.
And thank you for those who had the courage to ask the questions. Just sit comfortably. The best is both feet on the ground so that the body is balanced and relaxed but not sleepy. I'll speak my own thoughts as I meditate and invite you to follow these ideas. Sitting quietly, I go on an inner journey. Going deeper and deeper within the self. And I look at my thoughts and simply watching my thoughts slows down the speed. I visualize the inner being, a spark of light in the center of the forehead. And I connect with myself. I, the soul. This physical body is very precious, most valuable. But I want to find out more about the soul. And going deep inside, I come to that space where only I can enter. A space of peace. And in this peace, I can feel the presence of the divine. And I connect with the source, the being of light, the ocean of peace. I'm surrounded by this peace. And I can feel peace reaching me, but also the peace of the ocean filling this room, going beyond the walls, spreading out into the city. Peace touches people everywhere. And supports them in their journey. And not only do I discover peace within, but I also discover the love that is natural and intrinsic within the soul. Peace and love are the natural state of being. And in this awareness of the love within, I connect with the being who is the source of pure, altruistic, unconditional, unlimited love. And the power of this love heals the soul. And this love reaches out, touching human hearts, so that their discomfort is removed. I hold this awareness of the inner being of peace and love. And I come back to the moment here and now. And my aim is to keep connected with my own inner qualities. Om Shanti. Thank you to Loveena, thank you to all of you. Om Shanti. Om Shanti.
Okay, thank you, Loveena. Thank you, Sister Jayanti. And just a few comments. Just before I do, I'd like to just welcome a couple of special guests who've come today. So the representatives from the police, thank you for coming, and Deputy Mayor Orleen Hilton for Deputy Mayor for Brent, and Kripesh Irani, Assembly Member for Harrow and Brent. So welcome and thank you for coming. Loveena, so a wonderful interviewing style, and it seems as though there was a real common thread through all of the answers there, and we experienced that common thread at the end there, and that's connecting to our true self. And whether the barriers are inside or the barriers are external, the answer is the same, it seems. So thank you so much, and thank you to everyone for joining, whether online. I think we have over 100 online, and everyone who's come in person. So just a couple of reminders. So we have talks every Tuesday here at Inner Space Wembley, and so next week, Courage is Contagious is the theme, and so that's Umang Modi, and the following Tuesday, Worry Less, Live More, but they're all listed on your little flyer. And on Thursdays and Mondays, there's reflective meditation sessions you can join, either in person or online, between 7 and 7:30. And if you want to learn how to connect to yourself and then tune into the divine, the Fast Track Meditation course starts next Monday, I believe, 5:30 till 6:30, and it's Monday through to Sunday. And everyone's welcome to join, and that's online. Okay, so I'm going to pass over to Sister Daksha, who's going to come on stage. But yeah, once again, thank you, Loveena and Sister Jayanti. So I think,
Also wish you all a very happy new year. Many of you coming here first time in January. Hopefully you can see me. And thank you, sisters, for this wonderful conversation. There was lots of things, and I think we have lots of material that we can, when all these parents and they're saying, oh, my child is doing this and this is what's happening. So we've got lots of answers today. But one thing I'm taking is self-respect. And thank you, Jim, for facilitating, and our IT team, everybody who put the video together and backstage and the ashes. So thank you all. And as Jim has mentioned, this place is open for everyone. We also have a quiet room, and we open Mondays to Saturdays, generally around 10 a.m. onwards. So some days we close around 8, some days around 5:36. So, but during the day, a lot of people do take benefit during their lunch breaks or before going to work. So you're welcome to come. And what we're now going to have is, we'll invite you to come up to Sister Jayanti, and you're going to get a sweet that's cooked in a positive awareness and a card with a positive thought to take back with you, and a New Year calendar. Some of you may have already got one, so then please don't take another one. But if you haven't, you're welcome to take. And Sister Jayanti has another appointment with our center in Australia at 7:30, so that's why we have to finish it quite quickly. So if you come this way and then make your way, and there's, for those of you who missed, teas and refreshments, if you want, you feel free to have it. Thank you.